Hi, everybody. This is Hondo Carpenter, your Las Vegas Raiders beat writer on SI and the host of the Las Vegas Raiders Insider Podcast. It's great to be with you today. We are going to dig in on 8 Raiders entering their money year. 8 Raiders entering their money year. This is one of the most popular podcasts that I do each and every year. And for those of you that, because our audience has grown exponentially, for those of you that don't know what a money year is, let me explain. In the NFL, your third year is really where they expect a player to begin to identify who and what he is. It doesn't mean that you're at the apex of your career, but it means that they're able to fully grasp, understand, get who and what you are. They can start to really identify, okay, here's the upside, whatever. They're going to give guys 2 years to, if they have enough talent, to garner their sea legs. But in year 3 is the money year because that's when you start the preparation for your second contract. And a lot of things go into it. There are very rare exceptions. One of them we'll talk about later in this podcast, but another one that we'll talk about because it doesn't necessarily apply to any of these 8 gentlemen, but is if a person changes position. I've seen some guys that, went along for 3 or 4 years and then changed positions and had a little bit of an adjustment period. That's fine. But we're dealing with primarily the 8 money year players on this roster. Now, there are other players that are in a prove it situation. We'll get into those at another time when we talk about roster bubble guys when I make my prediction on the 53-man roster. But today, we're going to dig in on all 8 of the key guys entering their money year. The first one is JB, Jakorian Bennett, the corner out of Maryland. This is a guy that came in, and he's a classic example of a money guy. Really showed early flashes, and then I believe it was a crisis of confidence. He 100% disagrees with me, and that's fine. But really struggled at most of year 1. I remember last offseason, you can go back and listen. I was one of his biggest proponents, not because I'm any savant, it's because of what people in the building were telling me. Um, and he came on in year 2 like gangbusters, got injured, and that really slowed him. But he was terrific last year in year 2. Everything I had told you last year that they thought he could be, he was. And he came on very, very strong and had a big year. Now, this is going to be a money year for him for a couple of reasons. First of all, he demonstrated last year what he can be, but he has to stay healthy this year. Remember, Nate Hobbs isn't here because Nate Hobbs struggled with staying healthy. And JB's got to stay healthy, but this is a guy that the Raiders really, really like. They see him as a potential big player here. But now in year 3, he has to prove it. This is his money year. He's going to make himself. A lot of people have the misconception that when you get to the NFL, you have generational wealth. There are some who, if you're an early enough draft pick, you do get generational wealth. They all get wealth, but we're talking about generational family changing wealth. But for most guys, if they ever get generational wealth, and not all, nor do many, but if they do get generational wealth, it comes in one of 2 ways. A massive deal. So if you didn't get that in your first deal, and as a third rounder, he got a very good deal, but it isn't like he got generational money. You get it in your second deal. Or you play a long time on good deals and are able to accumulate generational wealth. That happens too. But JB, the way he performed last year, has completely set himself up for potential of a major, major deal. He has to stay healthy in 2025. But this is a guy that has all the tools, tremendous instincts, great speed, strength, toughness. His injury wasn't because he's a wimp or because, um, oh, my hammy, too soon. But it was, because sometimes players will do that, not calling them wimps, but sometimes they'll just whatever. And there's a difference between being injured and being hurt. Now, last year he wanted to play. He was genuinely injured. But if you're going to get those big contracts, remember how many times you heard me say the best ability is availability. Now, sometimes you get into a situation where there is just so few free agents available. I've seen teams risk it. Now, the Green Bay Packers have made a very good living with Josh Jacobs going after guys that they felt the injuries were Raider related. And so they weren't as concerned about Nate Hobbs as other teams were. Who knows if that's accurate or not? We'll find out. But the point is that's the mentality. And JB set himself up last year. He played very, very well prior to injury. So this is absolutely a money year for JB. And great kid. Great kid. And he has done a lot of things in his life to get everything aligned and focused and on one page. And I listen, okay, I can't say every 99% of the players that come into the NFL have to mature and grow up, just like 99% of the kids who graduate from college. People just see them as the big muscular humans with the big wallets and think that they're already adults. They're not. So when I say that there has to be maturity, nothing with JB was a bad kid. It's just growing up. I mean, most kids get out of college, get their first job. They're not driving around with new cars and money in their pocket. Again, they've got all of them have make very, very good money, but not all. Very few have generational wealth. And he needed to grow up, and he has. And I'm really proud of JB, and I expect a big year out of him. I think he's going to have a monster year. At least I root for every one of these guys. I want every kid facing a money year across the NFL to have a big year. I root for people to prosper and succeed, and JB is certainly no exception. But he's shown it now. You usually hope by year 3. Remember, you expect your first rounder to start. You expect your second and third rounders to start year 2, and then third, fourth, and fifth ones, you expect them being solid rotational players, brink of starting year 3. That's what your expectations are. And again, JB started in year 2, and he's going to start year 3. Next is a guy that interesting situation here. Amari Burney comes in, linebacker out of Florida, but he was changing positions. All right. He's done limited things, but he hasn't really done a lot. Hasn't. He just has not done a lot. And he certainly has the ability, but this is his time now. His time, I think he's clearly on the bubble for making the team. I would think based on today, and I reserve the right when I do my 53-man roster to change this. He's clearly on the bubble. I think he's got a shot at making the team. I do, but he's on that bubble, and he's got to put film down. He's got to make plays, and he's done a little bit, but he's got to do more in year 3. Wonderful kid, hard worker, smart. but he has to. And you know what? Let's give the kid a little bit of grace, changing positions and then changing them in the NFL. There are very few Matt Millens, and who can make that change from college to pro and play at a huge level. And he's not Matt, but he is a very talented young man. But this is his year. He will demonstrate that he belongs in the NFL or not be here. But he's got to do more. And that's Amari Burney, the linebacker. And there's an opportunity on this team. Linebacker is not stacked. But boy, there's some guys coming. There's some guys coming. And going to be interesting to watch. The third guy is Michael Mayer, the tight end out of Notre Dame. Now, I want to make something abundantly clear. He did some really good stuff in year one. Year two, he missed some games out for personal reasons. And then earlier this year, there was some reports of which we confirmed that, Michael Mayer could be on the trading block, and that's accurate. But I also put it in perspective for you. Everyone was on the trading block. Now, if a Colston Loveland had dropped to the top of the second round, I 100% believe he would have been a Raider. He's an exceptional tight end with a high first round grade. There was a shot he may slip. I think Michael's going to have to adjust his game a little bit. He's going to have to, but he's extremely talented tight end, a wonderful young man. And everyone tried to make I don't want to use the term crisis because that's not the right word, but everyone tried to look for, is there any dirt why he's gone? And there wasn't. The Raiders were extremely supportive of him. His teammates were. He's very well liked in the locker room. And I said at the time of the reports, yes, he could be traded, but the Raiders are not looking to trade him. They weren't calling people, hey, you want to take the kid from Notre Dame off our hands? No. They are not disappointed that he's here. Not disappointed. This is a very talented young man. Now, Brock Bowers comes on and absolutely shines. And now you've got Besh, who is going to have a big year. Big year. And you've got Brock Bowers. You've got, think about this one. Jakobi Meyers and Jack Besh combined last year, both starters, got a lot of reps. One drop. One. Remember that movie Sergeant Bilko with Steve Martin? Drop and give me one, just one. So when you're on a team and you got a Tre Tucker, you've got a Brock Bowers, you got a Jakobi Meyer, you got a Dante Thornton. I think I mentioned Trey. And others. Don't forget you got Tommy Millott in there. And you're going to have to be stout at the point of attack blocking, which Michael is, and you're going to have to create. But Michael Mayer belongs in the NFL. He's an NFL tight end. He's already proven that. Now it is a money year, though. The Raiders may look at it and say down the road, okay, you know what? We think he's super talented, but we've already got Besh. We've already got Millott. We've got Thornton, Tucker, Jakobi, Bowers. He's a guy that, that we're not going to sign long term. So maybe they will let him go next year when he's got some value for them rather than walk with no payment. Or he sets himself up for a big contract. Or his gift makes room for itself and he finds that opportunity where the Raiders say, man, we just can't afford it. Remember what the Patriots did. Tom Brady remembers when they had Gronk and Hernandez. So just in your um, keep that in your thinking process as you watch him. But this is a money year. This is an absolutely a money year for him. Next, we're going to talk about a guy that came to the Raiders as a UDFA in 22. Now, I understand this is not his third year. It's technically his fourth. We're talking about the running back, Sincere McCormick. But I put him in this group for a very big reason. His first 2 years in Vegas, he literally did nothing. Now, you may remember last year when I talked about money year guys, and even during training camp when I talked about Sincere, this is a guy that had the ability, but just never could flash it, never could demonstrate it, never could. I mean, you'd see a little bit in practice, but even he just never enough to get trusted with game time. I mean, everyone knew the talent that was there. Have you ever, maybe if you're a parent and you have some older children, maybe you have a child that you're like, man, my most talented child is the one struggling. And it's like, why don't they show it? Or if you've ever had employees, or maybe you've been a coach, or maybe you've been on a team where there was a guy that everyone knew was super talented, just couldn't put two and two together. And then last year, the light came on and he played and then got injured. So here he sits now, and he's going into his fourth year. He showed enough of a flash that there is excitement about him. There is genuine excitement about him. But there's also, was it a flash in the pan? He can't get on the field, gets on the field, gets injured. What's the best ability? Availability. This is a tremendously big year for Sincere McCormick. Tremendously big year for him. Now, he's a running back, so it isn't like there's going to be, massive money. He hasn't performed like Saquon Barkley, but he certainly will get a chance to parlay a really good year this year into an exceptional contract, considering where his contracts have been. In light of other people's contracts, it probably wouldn't be exceptional, but a running back with where he's been and what he's been made, it will be exceptional. This is a big year for Sincere. I was talking with somebody in the organization this offseason, about staying healthy and staying engaged, and you know, make no mistake, Gene T's the guy. I mean, Ashton's the guy. That's nobody's doubting that. I know that's not some big revelatory knowledge, but it's the reality. He's the guy. So now Sincere is going to have to, when he gets the rock, he's got to make a statement. He has to make the statement. Okay, I got the rock. I'm going to do something with it. He's going to have to stay healthy because there's going to be a push now. There's going to be a big push for who's going to be two. Because I'm going to tell you right now, Ashton is a guy that plays all three downs. So, although they're going to keep more than two running backs, Ashton is a guy that isn't going to give the rock up much. So, if you're number three, you are, unless there's injury, you're not going to get the ball much. And not getting a running back who doesn't get the ball much doesn't spend much time in the league. So, huge year for Sincere. Massive year. Number 5 is a guy I really look interested in talking about, and Aidan O'Connell, the quarterback out of Purdue. And I'm not doing these in any particular order, but let's talk about Aidan, because some interesting things here. Now, Aidan has played in 20 games, started 17 in only 2 years. There was a trade market for him. The Raiders were not just looking to unload him. He is their number 2 quarterback, a young kid with only 2 years and some really good experience. Now, what I'm about to say is not going to be real popular, and I'm okay with that. I don't live for pats on the back. But it is reality and it is truthful. Raider Nation was completely divided by Derek Carr. One group loved him, one group hated him. And for various reasons. I mean, I'd never seen I've seen fan bases divided over quarterbacks. That's nothing new. Let's not pretend like that's revelatory. But I have never seen a fan base divided, and there was a multiplicity of reasons people loved Derek, and there was a multiplicity of reasons it wasn't even one thing. But I remember around the NFL, Derek was respected. Respected. And it wasn't like anyone thought Derek Carr was Tom Brady, but they also felt like the people that thought he was junk and terrible were way wrong. I remember writing a piece early in 2020 where I had general managers talking about Derek, and they didn't understand why Raider Nation just hated the guy. But I remember Derek's critics saying if he only had good receivers. Now, I thought Derek had some good receivers, not great. I mean, when I started covering him in 2020, he had the best offensive line and a terrific young running back in Josh Jacobs. But then he goes and gets Devontae, and let's just say Derek wouldn't have been benched. Um, well, either way, it didn't work out. But the fans of Derek always had a reason, and it was never Derek's fault. Well, that's not reality. Nobody has all the pieces. That's one of the things that made Tom Brady so good is the Patriots had deficiencies. There were years when people were like, how in the world does Tom Brady do this with, he doesn't have the greatest set of receivers. What about when he had Moss? He didn't have Moss his entire time. He didn't have Edelman his entire time, and others, and others. There are times he had a great running game, times he didn't have a great running game. Tom Brady just found ways to win. That's what franchise quarterbacks do. I told you guys all last year. Patrick Mahomes had one of the worst supporting offensive staffs around him last year and still somehow got to the Super Bowl with a much improved defense, but he still got there and then just ran into that buzzsaw of the Philadelphia defense. But Patrick Mahomes should have been the MVP last year with what he did with that. And I know that makes people angry because he's a Chief, but it's just the reality. And you see with Aidan, I am being completely objective here. Now, in the interest of full disclosure, I really like Aidan the person a lot, a lot. Have a terrific relationship with him, and I genuinely really like Aidan O'Connell. I have not seen enough from him to say he's a QB1. I've not seen enough from him to say he isn't. But after 17 starts in 20 games, he has to now begin to put the team on his shoulders and has to do some things without the yeah buts. That's what QB1s do. So let me give you an example. Last year, the Seahawks battled and fought, and Geno Smith, people say, well, look at all the interceptions and look, okay, If you go back and look at the team he had around him, he shouldn't have even had the success he had last year, and that's why they were willing to give him a massive contract, because John Schneider and the Seahawks knew what was around him. Okay, but you don't hear "yeah, buts" with Geno. You don't hear that. You just don't. You don't see finger pointing with Geno. You don't with Aidan either. But I'm saying QB1s just don't do that. They just go out and understand I'm QB1 of an NFL franchise, one of 32. I've got to make this work. And they make it work. Now, barring injury, Aidan's not going to get that chance this year. So he has to just keep using this time in practice to learn from Geno, take this extra tutelage. But when he gets those chances, he's got to make those statements. I will tell you, there is a lot of intrigue around the league about Aidan O'Connell. A lot of intrigue. Nobody's willing to give up huge, especially after last year. Okay. But last year, he suffered. And you can say, well, Hondo, there you go with the yeah buts. I'm not making any yeah buts. But him and Minshew both looked terrible with Luke Getsy. But after Luke was gone, I thought Scott Turner did a much better job with the offense. And there were a lot of times you're wondering, okay, let's go, Aidan. Let's go. Why throw that interception? Why? He had the team rolling. I think it was in the last preseason. I think it was the Dallas game. I may be wrong, but it was in one of the preseason games, and then throws an inexplicable pick six. There's no yeah buts. Now, I mean, this young man, after 2 years, to have 17 starts and played in 20 games, he now has to demonstrate to the NFL. Here we go. He either has to demonstrate to the Raiders and totally convince them, I'm your guy moving forward, so that when Geno's in double digits now for seasons. So when Geno's done, I'm your guy. I'm on a good deal here. I don't cost much. I'm not coming with a big price tag. That's exactly what he has to do. This is a money year from him. Now, he's not going to play a lot. So you say, Hondo, how can it be a money year? Because he's going to have every day in practice a chance to demonstrate to Pete Carroll, John Spytek, Tom Brady, look at where I'm at. The Raiders are going to be shopping for a franchise quarterback potentially next year, which is only smart. I mean, you got 13 years under the belt of Geno. You got to have an answer long term. In the NFL, you got to have two quarterbacks. So this is his chance right now to say, look at guys, look at where I'm at. I got good coaching. I got great players, and make a statement. He's going to get that chance. Now, I'm going to say this to you, and I think everybody knows this about me. I don't root against people. And I'm not sitting here waving the flag that, hey, this guy's a QB1. He is the future. Don't go take Drew Aller or Arch Manning or whomever next year. I'm saying you don't know. But I'm also saying he can demonstrate it. And if he does, he really sets the Raiders up nicely for the future. Great kid, hard worker. He is a hard worker. And his teammates genuinely love him, which you want that in a quarterback. And this is a money year from him. Even though he's not going to play a lot, barring injury, it's a money year for him. Needs to make some flashes in the preseason. Create a little buzz. But this is a money year from him. Next is a guy that is the most perplexing player on this list. Salt of the earth, a young man. Great kid. Georgia didn't win a national title with him, especially 1 year without him. He is a guy that around the NFL, there was a lot of excitement about this kid. It was not just the Raiders. And has come in, and quite frankly, his first 2 years have been a dud. I have no expectations for rookies selected where he was picked. He was picked in the 5th round. I thought we'd see something last year, extremely disappointed that we didn't, and that's Chris Smith, the safety out of Georgia. This kid he has every single reason to be great. He was great in college. He's great in the locker room. Tremendous kid of character, super hard worker. It just has not materialized for him in the NFL. And this is a kid that it wasn't that like when the Raiders picked Damon Arnett, nobody in the league what saw what they saw. Nobody in the league. I mean, I told you, over half the teams that I talked to had Damon Arnett on a do not draft list, meaning they would not have taken him in the 7th round or even as a UDFA, and the Raiders are selecting him in the 1st round. It was as bad as a pick as Jamarcus Russell was. Damon Arnett was worse because with Jamarcus, it wasn't all of the off-field red flags. And Damon Arnett was just it's the most baffling pick that I've ever witnessed in my career. Okay. Chris Smith was not that guy. Chris Smith was a guy. There were lots of NFL teams that wanted him, lots of NFL teams that really liked him. And the way the draft board fell, he fell a little bit. And the Raiders nabbed him. And I know of multiple teams that wanted and liked him because I heard from them. I had tremendous expectations for him last year, even though it was year 2, just because of all of the fanfare around him. And nothing. And he's just such a great kid. And this is a big year for him. He has got to flash early. This is a kid that he has got to, because this is a guy that could find himself on the outside looking in. Do I think he's on a bubble? Yeah, I do. But I'm leaning towards him potentially making it. Leaning. But he's got to show something. New staff's in here. They're like, listen, let's go. Let's just clean it up. Let's just move on, bring in guys that we know and see what we can do. Now, it benefited him that there wasn't really a safety picked, but you got IPM. Everybody loves him. I mean, there's a lot of talent there in that and that the Raiders are set up with. But he's got a shot now. This is his money year. He's got to show everybody I am who you believed me to be. And I have tried to put my finger on it. I've talked with a few people. What's going on with this kid? And I get different answers, different schools of thought. And this is going to be a money year for Smith. We know he can play the game. We know that, I mean, you don't win titles at Georgia because of him if he can't play the game. He's not overwhelmed by the stage. It's just, proof of the pudding's in the eating. And if y'all don't understand that saying, it's just, I don't remember I don't remember if I learned it from my grandmother or my father, but basically, don't tell us how good of a cook you are. It's time. Eventually you got cooked. Well, he was a great college player. Now he has to prove he belongs in the NFL. A lot of people believed in him. Now he has to prove that they weren't wrong. Next guy I want to talk about, picked out of the 3rd round, Tre Tucker, out of the Natty. And let me just say this. He can fly. Now, you may remember his first year struggled mightily with drop balls. It was brutal. But as I told you at the time, he's a rook. Rooks play like rooks. You expect him to deal with it. He came in last year, OTA's minicamp, looked really, really good. Spent a lot of time in the jugs machine. Early in training camp, had some drops, but really rebounded. Now, last year was a very disappointing year for him, and it wasn't his fault. I mean, I can't even tell you. Go back and watch a film. How many times you saw him open and they would throw deep and they couldn't get the ball to him. He had to stop. Okay, that ain't happening with Geno. That ain't happening with Geno. Geno's going to be like, Tre, you don't worry about the ball. Go. On. I think we're going to see a breakout year. I'm not making him as my breakout player, but I'm going to within the next couple of weeks make my prediction on breakout players. And I think he's got a chance to be a breakout player. Now let me tell you why he doesn't have a chance to be a breakout player. Because there is a reason here. He's going to be on a team with Dante Thornton. You say, all right, what's that have to do? Well, Mr. Thornton, my friends, is 6'5" and is a flat 4'3". So now all of a sudden, there is a bigger version of Tre Tucker on the team. And Tre is not a big man. He's not a big man. Years ago, he's not a big man. And when you're not a big man, you don't have the catch radius. Okay, so now you bring in a Dante Thornton out of Tennessee, the rook, who is fast, and he's 6'5". It's just a much bigger target. I'm a hunter, y'all know that. And someone said to me one time, as much as you love to hunt, and I like to hunt big game, why don't you like to hunt like quail? And I said, have you ever noticed the size of a caribou or a moose or an elk compared to a quail? Not smaller, harder to hit. And the point is that Tre's going to have some competition here now. But he's a vet. He's hard worker, takes care of himself, looks like a piece of granite. Man, incredible physique. And as long as the drops stay behind him, he's going to have a quarterback that can get him the football now. But this is a money year from him, and I think he's going to have a chance to make some money now. And the secret with him is going to be keeping Dante on the bench. Now you say, how can you do that if Dante's that good? By not dropping passes, by getting that space and separation so they just don't have to play him. I mean, here's the deal. Jacoby and Besh are your two starters. If you go two, and if you go third receiver, and that's where Tre's going to have to keep him off the field. Don't know if he'll be able to, just because of the size of Thornton creates so many. Now Thornton's got to work on his route tree, but still, this is going to be a big year for Tre Tucker. And the last one I want to talk about is Tyree Wilson. And I want to go back and share some more information to remind everyone. This is one of those exceptions on the 3-year money rule. And I'm going to remind you why. When the Raiders picked him, he was coming off a brutal injury. And the Raiders' mindset with him and other teams that were looking at him was that his rookie year was going to be a red shirt. So bringing him in, the Raider mindset was his money year is going to be year 4. Now, you may say, Boulder Dash, I'm going to keep year 3 as the money year, and that's fine. But I am telling you why even though it is technically his money year, and I'm bringing it up, why I'm giving him up till next year, because that's exactly what the franchise told me. Yeah, we understand. Next year we're just looking at it as a red shirt, just letting him get healthy. Chandler Jones happens, he has to play more. In his rookie season, when he was not healthy at any point, was not impressive. Okay, last year, I thought he was impressive. He was healthy. He showed his speed. He was tenacious. I thought his technique, while not polished, was better. Could clearly see some growth there. And they agreed, by the way. I do think in year one thing that really helped him is when he did play better, obviously was when he was at his most healthy, even though he wasn't anywhere near 100%, is uh, Patrick Graham moved him to the inside. Him and Robbie moved him to the inside so he could learn to use his hands because he was very, very raw. So this is going to be a good year for him. It's not his fault where he got picked. I have never hid this. I have a very good relationship with Tyree, a great relationship. And I like him. I respect him. I think the way he handled the completely unfair criticism in year 1 and even part of last year showed me a lot about his character. The way his teammates took him under their wing and just loved on him in year 1 when the criticism was not realistic nor fair told me a lot about his character because teammates, you know, even guys competing with him, where if he came along, he's going to take their job, we're loving on him and caring on him. That's a big deal. That's a very, very big deal. And it says a lot about him. But this is going to be a big year for him. And he's healthier than he's ever been. He has worked hard. And now, even though it's his second year, of being healthy and playing, you want to continue to see more flashes out of him. And instead of flashes now, you're looking for some permanency. You're looking for some, it's not one big play here, one big play there. It is consistency of play. I can tell you this last year, there was a lot of happy people in that building at how his maturation came. There were a lot of people like, oh man, if he had just done this one thing. There was one particular game where had his pad level been a little bit lower, he got to the quarterback, but he would have sacked him. Instead, quarterback bounced. That's it. Remember, if you're looking at last year's a rookie year, okay, makes sense. But he's improving though, and I remember, in my opinion, the Raiders should have beat the Chiefs twice last year, and and I saw against Patrick Mahomes where Tyree just chasing him and making him miserable. So this is going to be a very fascinating year for Tyree Wilson. A fascinating year. Yeah, this is going to be, I'm really looking forward to seeing from him. I remember the Raiders, when they got him, were elated. They 100%, he was their dude. They loved him. They didn't like him. They loved him. And there were other teams that did too. Not pretending like it was only the Raiders. There was not. I think it was Schwager from NFL Network, even at one point said he thought he was going to, when all things was settled, was going to be the best pick in that draft class. I understand he's a pundit, but he's hearing that stuff from other people. And Great kid, great work ethic, great character. And when you look at it in light of how the Raiders did, this is only going to be year 2. But it's still going to be a big year for him. Got to play a lot where he was picked. And I expect him to. I expect him to. If Max and Malcolm are healthy, I don't think that he'll beat Malcolm out, but he'll get a lot of playing time. And that's all you can hope for. And you know Patrick Graham and Robbie Leonard, the mad scientists, they're going to create ways to get him on the field. If they have to move him inside into D tackle, and when you got a 3-man front or whatever, they're going to look for ways to create for that athleticism and that ability to play. So those are the 8 gentlemen entering a big time money year as we look. Got lots of other topics to cover coming up for you as we continue to move forward. But thank you for joining me today. I appreciate all of you. I hope that you have a wonderful day. God bless you.